this podcast, you'll find interviews with high-performing, successful individuals in life sciences. On a weekly basis, we cover their proven methods, principles, strategies, and mindsets to implement new technologies that scale to meet the needs of people in our world.
Welcome to this episode of Life Science Success. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Don, and I'm a digital marketer in life sciences. And as we get ready to jump into this episode of Life Science Success, I wanted to just also bring in my guest, Ashley Scholz. She is the Vice President of Marketing at Vector Laboratories. She brings over 16 years of experience in medical devices, diagnostics, and strategic marketing. So with that, welcome, Ashley. It's great to have you on.
Thanks, Don. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And we were talking a bit before the show. Lisa was on from Vector Laboratories as well, Lisa Sellers, and it's been since 2023. As I went back and checked through the notes really quickly because it wasn't top of mind for me. But before we get to anything else, would you mind just taking a little bit of time and just explaining a little bit about yourself and then also what brought you to Vector?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a marketer through and through. I actually first fell in love with marketing all the way back in high school, forever back when, and I won't say how long ago that was. But I took a business class my sophomore year, and I think that's the first time, I really got a lot of proximity to the topics within marketing, but it came off to me very much like almost like human psychology, social science, and I just really loved all of that. So from there on, I kind of knew that was what I wanted to do. Went to school for marketing, started my career with Becton Dickinson. So that's when I, kind of had my first foray into the healthcare space, and I've stuck there ever since. I was in their diagnostics division with women's health and cancer. My time with BD was really kind of fortunate when I think about my career trajectory. They were going through quite a few things at the time, including bringing on a new CMO into the C-suite, and they were introducing kind of all new sort of skill sets and tools that we needed to use as a marketing organization. So I'd say I really kind of cut my teeth on some really great practices very early on in my career. Also during that time had a great chance to be a part of a leadership program that was more of a rotation. And so that gave me global experience, got to do things in different business units, go to different markets. And so it kind of built, more of a, I guess, global awareness and just kind of holistic thinking by being in that program. I had a short stint at a startup. I left BD, went to this startup called Liposcience, and was there for about a year, about 150, maybe last people working for that organization. And then went back to BD. So was there for, couldn't quite get enough of it. I thought I was ready to leave, but I guess not. So I went back there for a while, and in that role was more in like a regional marketing manager type of position, and started to build some of my skills in product management.
Were you back in North Carolina for that again?
I was, yeah. Yeah, I was actually I was in Raleigh for all of this until I went to Cepheid, which was a total shift going over to the Bay Area. So, and that was in molecular diagnostics. And then, I kind of wanted to switch things up a little bit. Wanted to just grow my experience and try a different market, see what that felt like. And so that was when I made the switch over to Gore in the med device space. And I was there for right around 8 years in Phoenix, Arizona, melting, but loved it. And those roles, I kind of started as a strategic marketer with them, and grew my experience through various forms of leadership, and was leading their North America marketing team before joining Vector. So it's a great experience. But yeah, you asked what brought me to Vector. So it's funny, I wasn't actually looking to make a shift at the time that I did. I was introduced to Lisa Sellers, our CEO, and really just had kind of an initial networking conversation with her. But it was at that time that I got a lot of sort of proximity and understanding of how the company was looking to shift their strategy and go toward more of a B2B kind of industrial focus, while still catering to kind of our like academic researcher base. Um, yeah, to me, it just introduced a whole lot of different experiences that I didn't necessarily have yet in my career portfolio, but also a lot of great opportunities to kind of leverage some of my skill sets and help the organization. So it was an opportunity I couldn't pass up.
Yeah, there've been a couple of conversations that I've had recently where somebody has been like purposefully plucked from an organization in the
Yeah.
and in their career, which I find interesting too, right? I mean, sometimes there's this serendipitous path that happens with us, and other times it's like,
Yeah.
no, I was planning other things, and life sort of presented a totally different opportunity I wasn't expecting.
Yeah. Isn't it right? It just sort of happens that way.
Right. Yeah. So, whenever you were at WL Gore, what were some of the things that you did there that helped to prepare you for your current role at Vector Labs?
Yeah. I think probably the last few years, a lot of the work that we underwent as an organization to become a little bit more commercially oriented and kind of restructure the marketing team to build best in class marketing. I think both of those things that I've been able to bring to Vector and really leverage. The commercial orientation was really about the org was kind of going through more of a shift toward a regional kind of business leadership, and trying to find growth, looking through the regions and their local markets to see where we might be able to commercially expand. Um, and so, kind of being a part of that change in, introducing new tools, business processes for the region, really built up a different kind of level, I guess, of my commercial muscle. So when I think about coming to Vector, we're much more of a commercially oriented organization. We're not like kind of true traditional R&D like what you might see in some other orgs. Our development is more about supporting our customers, helping them with their development cycles, or bring additive things into our portfolio that are going to help, more so with like our antibody expertise. So it's just, like 80/20 rule, probably 80% heavily commercially focused. And so using a lot of those learnings from our regional structure while I was in Gore has been really helpful so far. But the org change is probably the bigger one. So, kind of working through that at Gore, they were going through this sort of broader org structure with the whole organization, making this regional shift. And then we were also trying to adapt the marketing team to kind of become best in class, a little bit more efficient, bringing some of the business acumen from kind of the product side, and also really sort of double down on customer expertise, and how we bring that into the organization and thinking across portfolios for how we serve the customer. Um, I think that's a critical way that I'm able to help Vector at this stage. We're in a unique spot right now with our company and our brand, where we've been through a few mergers over the last couple years, and whenever you do that, there's a lot of disparate views, disparate data, disparate systems. And so some of those things aren't always in service to the customer at more like an account or broad view. And so that's something I'm trying to bring in, along with other parts of the executive team, to get us to look at how are we servicing the customer more broadly, and thinking across our portfolio to help serve their needs.
I think you might have touched on it just a little bit in your last answer, but I also wanted to sort of go back a little bit to Gore. What were some of the key challenges that you ran into there, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah. When I think about the challenges, I guess with I would say kind of the org change more broadly, um, with any change management like that, you get people that are kind of at all different levels of acceptance and understanding. And there's also a bit of a mixed message between what were some of the broader maybe kind of corporate org changes we needed to make compared to what were the things that we needed to adapt in the function. And so, clarity of message was a challenge at times. Trying to parse out the why behind really two kind of different but related drivers, presented a challenge as well. Um, and then within the org design for the marketing function, staying super nimble on what the business is going to evolve to, so that as you're looking at your org, you're adapting more so to future state as opposed to just looking in the rear view and kind of solving, what was broken before. Um, so those were, I guess some of the challenges with that future focus and pulling that into the message kind of helped overcome that a little bit. I'd say too, from a change management perspective, it's always a hard thing in the word change, thinking about we've got this sort of ideal picture of who we want to be or how we want to operate, but is that really going to come to fruition? And so I think looking at org change much more as process, tools, capabilities, in addition to just an organizational structure, is a really it's not just a critical piece, but a must have. If you don't do it that way, you'll end up changing titles, shuffling people around, and landing on the same result. So,
Yeah, I think it's a really critical point because I think there's a lot of people that take this really narrow view of what what happens during a merger or what happens when a company is acquired. But I mean, from a change management standpoint, there's a really broad impact that I feel like comes about that nobody really understands whenever you're going into it, whether you're the acquirer or you're the
yeah.
the company being acquired. It doesn't matter. I mean, you will change and merge
Yes.
as
Yeah.
like it or not, you will. And then also, like, is that a positive thing or a negative thing? And in
Yeah.
reality, does it really matter? I mean, at the end of the day, like, put the pieces together. Let's figure out, like, how do we execute? And then
Yeah.
when we're in that bigger state, imagine how much better the world will be.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, I think it's, from both sides. If it's two companies coming together, as long as you've got that vision on what we're actually solving for in the process of the change, that's your opportunity to make it something positive, to make it something that people really rally around as opposed to, more of an us and them
Mhm.
experience. So, and I almost hate using the word like change management anymore anyway. It was such a big thing for a while, and change agility, and I'm great at change and I can do all this, but it's just kind of part of our dynamic now with the way that the market shifts, how quickly technology is shifting, the way that we actually perform marketing. So, to me, it's just like, okay, day to day nimbleness in the job. You just need to get the job done. What's it look like? How do we continuously adapt to make that happen?
Yeah. Yeah, also important parts. So how do you approach building and leading high performing teams, and what strategies have you found to be most effective?
Yeah. I might be a little more classic in this one. I feel like when I first went through some leadership exercises at Gore and we were going through sort of team formation, I was going back to really traditional team performance model. And kind of thinking about that in terms of was it maybe 7 steps or so of what it takes to kind of really get a team, engaged and ramped up. And um I think about it like that old adage of problem solving, right? If you spend the 80% of your time defining the problem to solve, you can, really expedite getting to solution. And I think about that with org work and really getting a team together. I think if you slow down up front to establish your identity as a team, your values as a team, when you talk about that, what does that look like? What does it feel like? So they're not just empty words on paper. Um, Even contracting a bit on, what'll happen if things aren't working the way that we expected them to, just all of those conversations, and then not walking past spending the time too on bonding and getting to know each other as humans. You build all of that, all of that credit, all of that trust. And so by the time you get toward execution, I think you're on a much faster trajectory to just, have a sort of healthy execution across the team.
Yeah, I think I've said this before as well. This whole concept of taking it slow to go fast
Yeah,
is
exactly.
not a
That's
common
exactly it.
Not a common way of thinking of things, but it is the way that the world seems to work. Like, let's make sure we get all of the, like, I constantly telling my team, like, let's make sure we get the input side correct first, and
Yeah.
then we could push the accelerator all the way to the floor. Otherwise, we're going to
Yeah.
push the accelerator to the floor and then have to go back to the beginning again and try and get it right the
Yeah.
second time. And it's not as much fun the second time around.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and I think that's interesting too about high performing teams is I also think people, even if you invest in the foundation, we tend to think about it very linear. And so I don't think we realize that there's different times in that cycle that you're probably going to have to go back to the beginning. Did you bring in a new team member? Did you introduce a system that's now disrupting the way that we work? Things like that, where now you probably need to revisit some of your foundational discussions to make sure that you're still able to have truly excellent execution, further downstream. So, yeah, spending the time there would be the number one thing I'd say is a critical piece to having a successful, high performing team.
Excellent point. So what was it that drew you to Vector Labs? I mean, you said that you were plucked away, but at the same time, there must have been some foundational things where you said, hey, look, I'm currently at Gore. There's a chance for me to go somewhere else. And of
Yeah.
course, it's always flattering to have somebody, interested in you, but at the same time, I'm just interested in looking a little deeper. What were your initial impressions of the company and its culture, and what was it that drew you there?
Yeah. Um, it's a couple things. So, I guess the very first thing I always told myself, I learned early on, probably, back from my experience of being a BD and going somewhere and come back to BD, that the grass isn't always greener on the other side. It's just somebody else's grass. And so, I thought, even when things are clunky, wherever you're working, what are the things that are most critical to you that would, make you jump or make you stay? And at Gore, for a really long time, it was about the culture. Up until when I left, I loved the culture at Gore. It was highly collaborative, really fit with my kind of feedback style, willingness to just sort of share, take on an owner's mindset, kind of call stuff if we see something that's not working, but then also be part of the solution. There's a lot about that culture that I loved. And so I told myself if I ever went anywhere else, I would want to, take the things I love about that culture and be able to see that, in the future organization. Um, so when I was looking at Vector, I saw a ton of similarities in their mission and how they operate. Got to experience the executive team in a certain way where I could see how they worked together, where I could see what Lisa, our CEO's dynamic was with them. And so they're really just sort of, leading by example and kind of showing me what the culture felt like. And I was just really, kind of excited and enamored by that. Um, on the business side, though, that was one of the discussions I had with Lisa very early when I was just trying to kind of understand what is the role, what's the company up against. Um, and that really kind of brought forward this shift that the company is making toward kind of an industrial B2B side of things. And that's really interesting for me. My background is all B2B. It's all I've ever really done with my prior life. So it felt like something where it presented a challenge. It was kind of problem solving and puzzling for the organization, but where I could really sort of leverage my skill set and bring that to them. And then on the flip side is I've not really had a lot of experience in certain portions of marketing that Vector does today. So like e-commerce is a great example. We used e-commerce at Gore, but it was more for our fabrics division and other parts that were a little bit more on the consumer side, but never necessarily in B2B. And we have that platform for, parts of our portfolio that we're serving now that are more for your kind of academic scientists and researchers. And so just a really great blend of, leveraging existing skills and then being able to learn new ones. Um, and then I guess finally I was really inspired just by having a woman CEO. To me, that was, really exciting just personally for my own learning and, you know, understanding what other women have been up against and how they've grown and how they manage conversations in the boardroom. So yeah, I guess all around it just felt like a really great kind of blend and chance for me to learn.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, corporate America so much, you just don't see the female CEO that often in
Yeah.
broader corporate America. And I mean, even whenever you look across the executive team, I mean, I've had these discussions as well, where it's like, a room filled with men and possibly one woman, in the room. At times there can be, two, but oftentimes, most of the most senior leadership, it's all men, and
Yeah.
oftentimes all white men. And so it's like,
Yeah.
having this mix of representation of like what represents America, and then also what represents the broader global culture. And then lastly,
Yeah.
um, like how do you get those right ideas in the room if you don't have that
Yes.
representation? It's like, it's very hard to do.
Yeah, yeah, it's absolutely right. Absolutely right. Yeah. So, yeah, and it's not to say like I've had, really great men who've been champions for me in my career and good role models, but there is something to be said for, feeling like you can relate to somebody on a different level and learn from them on a different level. And to your point on diversity on the team and perspective, even as leaders, how do we think about doing that within our own teams? So other people feel kind of seen, and it helps you with how you attract your talent and how talent looks at your organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's pivot all the way over to Vector Labs. What is the mission of the company, and what is your role of VP of marketing?
Yeah, so the company is truly a trusted B2B partner. So we're focused on enabling innovation through bioconjugation and antibody technologies. We have kind of been through a bit of a journey over the last couple of years with quite a few of our mergers, and but the cool thing is when you kind of look across the various brands that we have, the true mission is still kind of leveraging all of our trusted products, our long history, and our scientific expertise to really just be collaborative partners to our customers. So it's really kind of a mission and a culture of problem solving and being partners alongside our customers, which I absolutely love. Um, and we've got a lot of, kind of off the shelf product, but really our focus right now is the service side. And to me, that's a really exciting place where the company is kind of digging in and growing. Um, so yeah, that's kind of where our focus is right now. VP marketing, like what's our contribution to it? I think is that what you're
That's
asking
right.
me, Don? Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Um, Gosh, I mean, quite a bit, right? But I'd say if I think about maybe like some of the top two focus areas, right now with the marketing team, when you make the shift over to B2B, we're trying to think more about how do we help support our direct sales team? What does that look like? Do we have the appropriate sales enablement tools? Do we have the infrastructure to have more of a true kind of customer and account level view? And so there's a lot of these types of efforts that we're doing right now for how we look at the business, how we look at the customer. What does that mean for our performance and for our metrics? And just to grow the team, and what does that mean for them to, think about their execution to really support a direct sales team as opposed to being where we've been a little bit more traditionally kind of founded and more of the digital and kind of ecom space. Um, so that's a big one. And then I would say the other is back to our mission of kind of being this collaborative, really trusted partner and leveraging our scientific expertise. We focus on that because we're really in it to kind of help our customers solve complex challenges. And so when we think about, growing awareness around our brand, there's a certain way that we want that to come off. There's a way that we want that to look and be felt and experienced by our customers. But similar to the challenges that organizations face internally when they talk about culture, you have to get really explicit on what does that look like or what does that feel like? Otherwise, it's kind of empty words. And so for us, when we talk about being a collaborative partner and leveraging scientific expertise in the services realm, we have to think about what does that look and feel like for our customers. And if we're doing that well, what does that feel like? And so another big piece, and this is less, marketing only, but kind of talking about this as the broad org, but it's wearing that customer experience hat and
Mhm.
thinking about if you want to deliver that customer experience, really it's not marketing or sales responsibility to deliver it, it's the organization's responsibility. And so how do we create more of a service blueprint on whenever a customer engages with us, what does it, sound like to be a collaborative partner on an email? What does it sound like to be a collaborative partner in tech support? It's those kinds of things that we need to really operationalize, and I think we've got a great opportunity to contribute to that.
Very good. And let's talk a little bit more about how does Vector Laboratories support scientists and researchers in the life sciences, diagnostics, and biopharma industries?
Yeah, so a lot of different ways. I mean, I look at our portfolio now, and we are, more kind of like workflow and applications based so that we can be a little bit more of a holistic provider to our customers. But for academic and researchers, whether it's helping them, further understand biology or helping them with, let's say, late stage therapeutic development, that's really where we dig in. So we've got, anywhere from products that help with emerging areas like, multi-specific antibodies, antibody engineering, our bioconjugation services. We're really there to kind of, empower researchers in solving their problems. And uh, yeah, it's really more one of just kind of providing them the tools that they need, depending on where they're at in their research phase.
What are some of the innovative projects that you're currently working on?
Yeah. So when I think about innovation at Vector, we look at that a lot through some of our strategic partnerships as well. So I kind of mentioned early, we're not more as a, traditional R&D organization. So we're launching product for sure, but a lot of it is more on how we're sort of adapting maybe product modalities. Recombinant antibodies is a great example of that. Um, but also, how are we leveraging, other technologies or partners out there to help us just kind of build our offering and be innovative in this space? I could give an example. I think about our recent partnership we have with a company called Assembly, and that's really about leveraging their AI with our antibody solution to solve kind of problems within manufacturability. And so it's a cool thing that's still underway. But we're trying to keep our eyes open to things like that to continue to innovate in this space.
So important, especially with all the technology that's coming at us all the time. Um,
Yeah, right.
on the AI side, I'm curious as well. I mean, are you using other AI tools directly in marketing?
Yeah, that's a great, timely question for us. We're actually partnering really closely with our VP of IT right now for us to talk about how to, implement some different strategies internally. We've talked about quite a few, and it could be things that are, back to that idea of service blueprinting and what it feels like to work with us. What are things that we can do to, improve our level of service to a customer? Timelines for quotes or shipping, those things that really have the customer experience, kind of at the heart of what we're trying to implement. But specifically on the marketing side, also quite a bit there to think about. A good example would be like content and how we're trying to get that out in the market and really stay relevant on certain themes because of how diverse our markets and customer base really are. Um, and for me, a big piece of that is how does that help my team be more efficient and do what they can to support, let's say, the academic side of our business, stay on top of that, get the messages out there to really fuel some of that kind of e-com side of what we do, while also freeing up enough time that they can be very focused on our B2B customer, the different personas that we need to access, adapting messaging for those folks so the sales team can be successful. So yeah, we're just looking at different tools that'll help us with things like content and pulling in agents a little bit to, yeah, make us a little more efficient.
I love that. So, how do you
Yeah.
see the company's recent acquisitions of like Click Chemistry and Absolute Biotech impacting its product portfolio?
It's really a story of in my mind, like quality and robustness, that's really exciting. So when I look at our portfolio, you've got these great things like CCT with product that was, founded by a Nobel laureate, right? There's great credibility, great history there. You've got Vector with products that have been on market for a long time with all the publications and data that come with it. And shout out because next year's our 50-year anniversary, so that's super exciting. Um, and then you've got companies from the Absolute Biotech side, like our Absolute Antibody brand, that really were that was this true like specialization in recombinant antibody expression and engineering. And when you bring everything together, what's really cool for me is we're not having this moment where it's a square peg round hole. We've kind of brought these organizations together where you can see how the products start to fit in more of a workflow. You can see how they start to fit more broadly within an application. And so instead of it feeling like we're a onesie twosie for our customer, we start to have this broader portfolio on the biology and the chemistry side. So to me, it's really cool to see how well it's come together, and we're still kind of in progress of getting more of that like portfolio message out into the market.
So important. So
Yeah.
how do you balance driving commercial growth with maintaining customer-centric approach in your marketing strategies?
I don't know if those two things should be in conflict, should they? No.
That's, I
Um,
listened, I
yeah,
listened, I listened intently to your answer earlier about, sort of your role and like the ways that it contributes to the mission. And what's funny to me is like, if you went back to your BD days or any larger corporate days, you sort of listen to how the roles inside of organizations like Vector, it bleeds over into, I feel like it bleeds over into like commercial operations, because now all of a sudden,
yeah,
commercial operations to me is all about sort of the metrics and what is the sales team doing? Are they focusing on the right things? Do they have
yeah,
all the right numbers to see the things that are going on out there? Where on the marketing side, it's much more about like, how are customers engaging? And so I feel like you're right that the customer, side and the marketing strategy side should match, but yeah, at the same
yeah,
time, don't know.
yeah, they often don't. Yeah, it's definitely, yeah, you're right. Yeah, there's definitely those moments, right? I think about for me, trying to think about like really set examples, like I know in the device space, a really great one that I'm sure a lot of device companies talk about is field inventory, because field inventory is like a hot spot that represents one where if you have enough of it, it's more about ease of access, the customer getting product when they need it, being able to do the procedure that they need to do. If you have too much of it, it's risk for the company in expiring product, in inventory to manage, in cost. Um, but really, so it kind of turns this inventory discussion into a commercial metric. But if you're too slim on it, it makes it something where you're no longer servicing the customer in the right way.
Mm.
Um, so I think in those situations, it's, there is a important piece of just sort of business casing and impact analysis to kind of look at those scenarios and really talk about what is it we're actually trying to accomplish, and is something that might be a cost cutting measure actually revenue prohibitive, and so what do we want to do about that. So sometimes I think with that customer focus, it's really about, you know even bottoms up, like feet on the street marketing, really telling the story of what is reality, being that voice for the sales team, educating the organization. And then it's just a matter of, of decisions from there. Um, I think it's like, I would think of a similar situation too within product. When you're launching product, I haven't gone through this at Vector yet, but I certainly remember going through this at BD, a little bit at Gore, where you've got your product development timeline, and then you've got what the market needs, and depending on how those things shift or the blip that you have in your development compared to how market need is shifting, it can tank, sometimes really great concepts, depending on how long you're taking. So and again, I just kind of bring that back to marketing being the voice into the organization and having really frank conversations on implications to to revenue and to kind of the ultimate goal that you're trying to hit. If you want to get a product to market on time, but the needle's moved such that market acceptance won't be there, the interest won't be there, you're really at the end of the day trying to do it for the sake of revenue, but you're going to put something out there that's not going to drive the revenue you intended. So yeah, I think it's just putting that stuff into perspective. I mean, it's not easy, obviously, but that's kind of where my head goes first.
Absolutely. What's the greatest piece of leadership advice that you've ever received, and how has it influenced your career?
I think my favorite one, I have so many that I reflect on a lot, but one of my favorite ones is lead from where you are. And I cannot remember who said it or where I read it or what, but it was kind of early days, and it really stood out to me because um, lead from where you are, to me, is really a message about accountability and about how you show up and sort of taking the constraints off of people where you don't need to have a title to be a leader. And so leadership is about how you show up for your peers, how you challenge your leaders, how you invest in people to help them grow and to help them learn, whether you're their peer or their manager. So that one for me was really impactful. And, I think when it's taken to heart too, it can show up in a lot of different ways, but it gives people kind of organizational courage, be honest about what you're seeing, speak up, help be a guide for the organization. So I don't know. For me, that one really resonated. It stuck with me for a long time. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's so important too to kind of understand. The one statement that I remember having a reaction to in a meeting in larger corporate America as well was somebody had said, GE needed to fix this. It was whenever I was with General Electric, and I was like, I was looking around the room because everybody had a GE paycheck. And I was like,
Yeah, right. She's like, who is this
what does
GE
that,
we're
what
talking
does that
about?
mean? We're all GE.
Yeah.
And so I remember sort of reacting to everybody in the room and just going, okay, so hang on a second. This is all of us. Yes, we need
Yeah.
to do something. We all need to
Yeah.
pick up our part and go do our part and get whatever this
Yeah.
is resolved. And
Yeah.
it was the funniest thing ever because it was like, to have somebody do that. I would imagine that probably had, rippling effects because, it was
Yeah.
such a strong reaction for me. I almost wanted to both laugh and scream at the same time. Like,
Yeah.
I don't understand this, but it goes back to no matter what position you're in, I mean, you can choose to help solve the problem, or you can choose to kind of continue to look at it and say somebody else needs to come along and fix this for us.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's that owner's mindset and what did we say? There was a lot of that at Gore. One of my maybe most influential leaders when I was at Gore, Christy Schultz, she would always kind of bring in this idea of we are the they, and she brought that into the team all the time. And so, there's a lot about it too with your team that it's empowering, right? So if you're in the middle, we talked a lot about org change and building high performing teams. Leaders don't have to have all the answers. If you're working through an org change and you don't necessarily have a plan on a process, right? Or you haven't figured out which tool is going to help us actually unlock XYZ potential. This idea of we are the they, lead from where you are, there is some empowerment for your team even to be a part of that solution, and bring ideas to the table. So yeah, it's a good one.
Thank you for sharing that. What
Yeah.
inspires you?
Oh gosh, people. People, and especially my team. Like my team at Vector is awesome. I guess when I think about my team, I think about everybody. It's my marketing team is fantastic. There are a lot of smarter people around me on my team that I learn from every day, and so that's really great. The executive team, just a lot of people invested in each other and in a common mission. So I'm super inspired by the people that I work with at Vector right now.
Awesome. What concerns you?
I read that the wine market is declining for 2 years straight, and for me personally, that's horrifying. So I'll just throw that out there. Uh,
Did you say
um,
the wine market?
yeah, yeah, like the wine industry, they're struggling, man. I don't get it. I'm trying to keep them afloat. Just kidding. No, I think, I guess right now, and probably what a lot of companies would relate to is just the dynamics of our macro environment. Uh, Without getting like political on it, it's just more the scenario of the tariffs and how much that's changing. Certainly, in the United States, when we look at grant funding, impact to NIH, that stuff has hit. It's hit us directly. I know it's hit our customers directly. Even kind of further downstream, if research isn't happening in hospitals, that impacts reagent use, which impacts diagnostics and their funding. And so, it's just an interesting time right now for us more broadly. And yeah, we have to keep an eye on it and just try to stay as nimble as we can.
Absolutely. Last question. What excites you?
Oh gosh, I right now I'm most excited about still the strategy shift and us really doubling down on services at Vector. It's a really cool experience where we're just in it to help our customers solve complex problems. We are, really kind of coming alongside them and bringing this service to the forefront. And that's super fun for me. I have a very like historical kind of product widget type of experience prior to this. So being more in this kind of service capabilities, building your thought leadership type of space, just really, exciting times.
I really think about that though too, given some of the challenges in the industry, right? I mean, I mean, because I oftentimes am referring people, inside of my network that, where we have, um, a fit and a need, then I certainly try and piece the two things together. And
Yeah.
one of the things that oftentimes comes to mind for me is if you can shorten if you can shorten your learning by hiring a more experienced resource or getting that next level tool, you should
Yeah.
absolutely, in my mind, in this environment, you should do it because yes, it'll cost you a fair amount of money. Yes, you may have to do things that you might not have otherwise done, but at the same time, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I also don't think that a lot of people think through the decades of you know, thought that need to go into things. I mean, working with a
Yeah.
50-year-old company like Vector, I mean, you guys have to have experience that nobody else has.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. There's just deep subject matter expertise, and I think whether organizations are seeking help because of capacity constraints, I mean, that's totally okay and feasible, or if it's more of a capability thing. It is this moment where you can't necessarily be an expert in all things. And so, for us, there's no shortage out there of like CRO services as an example, but this kind of antibody service market is having double digit growth right now. And we really fit in this sort of niche, kind of specialized space. We can do the basics if we have to, but where you really need help and some of the challenging stuff is where we fit in some of those complex areas. And it's, to your point, like Vector's been around 50 years. When we look at absolute antibodies, you've got folks in there that really kind of founded the periodic table of antibodies. There's just so much rich kind of knowledge there that yeah, it's, leverage the tools that you have and kind of the network. And it's especially critical, in this space when it comes to things like therapeutic development, time to market can really be kind of a make or break in some of those areas. So um yeah, it's really exciting work.
Well, Ashley, thank you so much for being on the Life Science Success Podcast. I greatly appreciate you being here and for sharing with us again a bit more about the journey of Vector. I mean, it's great to hear how things have progressed, and I wish you all the best in your new ventures as well. And let us know if there's anything else you'd like to come back and share at some point.
Yeah, anytime. You got it. Thanks, Don. I appreciate the opportunity. It's been a fun discussion.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to Life Science Success. For complete details about this podcast, including show notes, how to get in touch with guests, and more episodes, please visit www.lifesciencesuccess.com. If there's someone you'd like for us to invite to the show as a guest, please let me know by sending me a message at the podcast website. Please click subscribe on your favorite podcast app, share the podcast, or tell a friend about it, and last but not least, rate the podcast. Thank you again.